Ray, thank you so much. We have quite a number of artists that we work with, and I'm not supposed to pick favorites, but there's a reason that Ray was opening tonight. She's not only beautiful, but she's an amazing talent, and we've been working together for years, and it just feels really comfortable. So, can you guys all hear me? All good? Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of people in a long time. What's everybody been doing? What's new? It feels good to be out, right? We're very lucky to live in British Columbia, where we've performed very well through this entire episode, and we have a lot to be thankful for. We have a lot to be thankful for to just be here tonight. We're going to talk mostly this evening. It's an evening to talk to you about what we've been up to in the last 18 months as we kind of work our way through this amazing journey on Oak Ridge Park that for me started nearly 20 years ago. So my journey on Oak Ridge Park has been a 20-year journey, and I'm still years away from it being finished. And so this little episode tonight is really to talk about that journey. And but before we got there, I keep running into people and they keep asking me, well, what have you guys been doing for the last 18 months? And so I thought it would be interesting to start this evening and just tell you a little bit about what we've been doing. Because I think there's a lot of people here that just love to see how their city and how cities in general are developing and to see the kind of things that we're working on. So I'm going to spend 10 or 12, 14 minutes just talking about what we've been doing in the last 18 months, and then we'll jump into Oak Ridge and talk about that. And we've got some more amazing talent that's going to join us as well. So I'm going to start by kind of walking through from Vancouver to some of the other cities that we're working in, and kind of take you through that journey. So obviously, everybody's familiar with what we've done at Vancouver House, and it's a project that for me we put an immense amount of love into, and I think that one of the things that we're going to talk about with Building 6 tonight is this idea that Building 6 really represents the best of a lot of the themes that we've been working on. And so as I take you through each one of these projects, each one of the cities, I want to kind of dive into the themes that we kind of dived into on those projects. Everyone knows when we came out on Vancouver House, we were playing with this idea of guessing goosework. And really this was this idea that we're going to design everything, from the door handles, to the chandeliers, from the landscape, to the architecture, to the interiors, to the energy systems, the whole works. The first LEED Platinum high-rise building in the world. It was also awarded the #1 high-rise in the world in 2021 by the Council of Tall Buildings. The first building in Canada to ever win that award. This is a rendering, but if you drive down Georgia Street tonight after you leave, you have to promise me, drive down Alberta, you go 2 blocks past the site, turn right, go down Georgia Street, and take a look at Alberta by Kuma. It's, I think it might be the best work that we've done to date, the way it's coming about. The first residential high-rise in North America by Kuma. The most successful pre-sale in Canadian history. And to dive into the themes that we were really exploring, it was the theme of the Japanese philosophy of layering. So all of these themes, guessing goosework, layering, all of the themes that we're exploring, we've been given the opportunity at Oak Ridge where we can explore all of those themes in one project. And I think that's one of the things that really makes Oak Ridge special, is that it's got this, Alberta Street's a sandbox is this big, and Vancouver House is this big. But Oak Ridge is this big sandbox where we get to really explore a lot. The butterfly. You know, this one was very dear to me because this was Bing's last work. We were very fortunate to have Bing Tom working with us. Maybe Canada's most important design architect of the last century, along with his mentor, Art Erickson. And this was his last project. We're now well underway, just 18 months from completion. And the fight for beauty was the theme at Butterfly. And what do we mean by the fight for beauty? It would really, everything that we did at the Butterfly involved a complete remaking of the bylaws and the codes in the city of Vancouver. We had to literally throw everything out and ask the city to work with us to really innovate. And I think when it comes to real estate, it's not a very innovative industry. When you think about it, it hasn't really changed that much in a long time. When you think about everything else in your world, from your phone to your car to your computer, to your wellness, to the next thing that you take, everything has evolved so much. But real estate is lagging in that innovation, and that's something that we really want to spend a lot of time working on. Horseshoe Bay. I was actually just there a couple hours ago. If you get an opportunity to go by, it'll be finished in about 4 or 5 weeks. And it's a really important piece of architecture. Paul Merrick's last big project, the master of West Coast modernism. And this, I think, is one of his best works. It is worth going to take a look at. It's also one of our first projects outside of Vancouver with creative energy. We've done an ocean loop at Horseshoe Bay, which results in about an 80% reduction in greenhouse gases. So it's a really an amazing project that I would like you to take a look at. Joyce 1 and Joyce 2, we finished Joyce 1, we're now under construction on Joyce 2. Transit, 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 transit. We're all seeing how our city is evolving. It's all going around the concept of transit. Again, you think back to Oak Ridge and think about the Canada Line, and it's the same concept. So this next project, Sanok, I think some people have probably seen a little bit about it in the paper. It's a tiny little project on the other side of the Broad Street Bridge, and it's the largest First Nations partnership in the history of the world. It's the largest net zero project ever built in the world. 6,000 net zero rental homes, all being built in one continuous construction process that will start in about 8 weeks from now. So that's a little thing that we've been working on during this 18 months. Something that gives me immense pleasure to do work on. 400 Georgia, otherwise known as Deloitte Summit. Our partnership with our team in Tokyo, what we were really working on there was the idea of a living sculpture. Just down the road from there, 150 West Georgia, again with Bjork Ingels, one of the largest office buildings in the city. In fact, the second largest. Our partner on Oak Ridge, Quadville, has the largest office building in the city, directly across the street at the post office that they're just bringing to completion. Directly up, kitty corner to that is what we're doing here. And one of the things that will make this project really interesting is that it is the largest net positive building ever constructed. By net positive, what I mean is it actually doesn't produce any greenhouse gases and actually does the opposite. So it's what's called a net positive building. It's a negative greenhouse gases. Jumping over and speaking of greenhouse gases, one of the things that we were really interested to start work on is I was asked by our government in Victoria if we could try to spend some time and effort and try to accelerate the use of mass timber. For those of you that know British Columbia well, you always think about British Columbia as having this really fantastic forest industry. But the reality is, they've been closing down a sawmill about every year in British Columbia for about the last 20 years. And so what we're trying to do is demonstrate how we can use mass timber to build high-rises. And what we're proposing at Main and Fifth, and it'll start construction next year, is the world's tallest mass timber building, which you guys need to show on the slide. So that project will start later next year. And what's interesting about it is it's not just a net zero from an operating perspective, it's a net zero from a total life cycle. It's as if the building had never been built. So you think about that. You build a building, and not only does it produce no greenhouse gases as you're operating the building, it actually produces no greenhouse gases in the production of the building either. That will be the first building of its kind in the world. So, yeah. I think we must be having a glitch because the slides aren't really moving anymore. Are the slides not going to work? Okay. I think the big thing that we've been working on, of course, is we started construction at Oak Ridge Park. And we're going to talk about Oak Ridge Park in a sec, but just quickly jump into Toronto. Calgary, we skipped over here. Calgary, we finished Telesky. What was interesting about that, of course, is that was Vancouver House, and we flipped it on its head, okay? And we built it up, Vancouver House, upside down. Exact same team, same architects, same developers, same team. That's it, completed now. People are living in the building, people are working in the building. This won second place to Vancouver House as the second top building ever built in the world. So then we get to Toronto. And I think where we start in Toronto, I'm just going to take you through a couple of the projects real quick. King Toronto. A real amazing building, again in partnership with Bjork Ingles. This is a gallery that we just opened on King Street with Doug Copeland. And this image is really amazing. What you're looking at is, well, aside from one of Chan's amazing dancers from her studio in Toronto, is actually a mock-up of the facade of that building. So that's not the building, that's just a mock-up of the facade of the building, which is inspired by Habitat 67 and Maison de Verre in Paris. Again, the theme here was Gazin Blues work. The next, I'll take you through real quick, Burbage Village. And I think Burbage Village has a lot of parallels to Oak Ridge. Much smaller, but it gave us this opportunity to really go into a bunch of opportunities that we've been playing with. So here we have our partnership with Soho House, our house gym, our partnership with Live Nation, Ask for Luigi, a restaurant, our first public market, creative energy. So all these little things that we play with, we get to bring them all together, and in our first time at Burbage Village. So luckily for my partners on Oak Ridge, I get to try this stuff out first there and work out all the bugs, and then I get to bring it over to Oak Ridge. So Burbage Village will be opening in about 9 months' time. A big project, 1,000 units of rental, the largest loan ever done by the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation. Jumping down to Seattle, we've been very, very busy down in Seattle. Our first light project, which is the theme here was the integration of art and architecture. So here, what we did is we put together an artist. In this case, John Hogan, who's probably the #1 artist in the world today, working with glass as his medium. And we put John together with one of my favorite collaborators for many, many years, the architect of this building, Shaw Tower, Shangri-La, James Chang. We put those two artists together, and we said, let's see what comes out of that. And that was this project called First Light. Most successful pre-sale ever done in Seattle. It's now well under construction and coming out of the ground. The next big thing we've been working on in Seattle is super cool. So for those of you who know Seattle, it's called First Hill. So you're downtown and you just look up the hill. And one of the largest concentrations of healthcare in North America, 3 major hospitals side by side. And basically what we're doing is we're using the excess energy from those 3 hospitals and a university to create the energy for 10,000 homes. So all of these homes are powered from the cooling systems of these hospitals. So we'll build 10,000 homes, all net zero. So the largest net zero community in the world. And that's now under construction in First Hill in Seattle. So pretty cool. Museum House is a project just coming to completion. It's actually just about 3 months now from completion. And what's really interesting about this one is it's a partnership with the Fry Museum, a small museum in Seattle that hits above its weight. And the Fry Museum has this really interesting permanent collection. So what we did is we digitized the permanent collection of the Fry Museum, and then that digitized permanent collection is the facade of the building. So we've basically taken the art from the Fry Museum and now we've wrapped it around like gift wrapping paper around the building. So that'll be open in a couple months. This is maybe the coolest one, WB 1200. So similar to Mirvish Village, this one is a bit of a warm-up for Oak Ridge. So we get to put a whole bunch of the different things that we're working on into one little mixing bowl and see what comes out of it. A partnership, 3,500 seat Live Nation music venue. Again, Soho House, House Gym, Giovanni, Creative Energy, Westbank Living, and maybe the coolest thing ever is our own Boeing 747. So, how did this little Boeing 747, this is it under construction on the left. It's about a year from completion. So my kids all thought when we would buy our first airplane it was going to be for personal use, but it didn't quite turn out that way. Sometime in the middle of this pandemic, United Airlines Boeing 747 from Hong Kong landed in Los Angeles. It was his last journey, and we negotiated to buy it. And that Boeing is now sitting in a warehouse just outside of Los Angeles, and in a place called Victorville. And they are now tearing it apart, stripping off the paint, and in about 6 weeks from now, it arrives on about a dozen flatbed trucks back in Seattle, where of course it was made to begin with. And this airplane will be hanging from its wings in the middle of a galleria that we're building in downtown Seattle. And inside that 747 will be our office space in Seattle. I think pretty cool space. Yeah. So speaking of innovation, I'm just going to jump down to maybe the center of innovation as we all think about it, which is Silicon Valley. So we got interested in Silicon Valley because we said, okay, so here's the world's biggest concentration of tech companies, and yet they work out of office buildings that are like an industrial park, and they have a shortage of housing, and it's terrible. So we said, well, there's something that we can do down there. So we've started a huge project. It's per capita at Bank of Italy, about 7 buildings in total. All of it to net zero again, not just net zero operating, net zero complete life cycle. All of it within walking distance, powered from sewer lines running through San Jose. And so you think about this, it's about 5 million square feet of workspace and about 8,000 homes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And there's a whole bunch of partners involved in that project with us, including most of the big tech companies that you guys all think about every day. And speaking of San Jose, a lot of you have seen the Serpentine. Remember where we started it with in Hyde Park in London? So if you remember, we went from Hyde Park to Toronto, and it's now on tour, and it's now just landed in San Jose last week. And so we'll be opening that to the public shortly. And of course, after San Jose, its tour will continue. Seattle next, and then it'll be in Vancouver in a couple of years. Next, I'm almost there. So this collaboration with Kuma has been yielding some really amazing work. He's at the top of his game. The teams are working so well together that we decided to bring him to Hawaii. And so the project that you're looking at is in Ko'olina, just down the beach from the Four Seasons that we did in Ko'olina a few years ago. And this will be coming to the market in the spring of next year. So Kuma's first major residential project in the United States. 4 buildings on the water, and by on the water, I mean they're literally on the sand. There's nothing between ocean and the buildings other than sand. So then we jump over to Tokyo. It's like a little crazy. So we finished 2 buildings in Tokyo while we've been at this thing, and I haven't even been able to see them yet, which is really, really bothersome. So they both finished about 6 months ago, including our own Kuma designed Rolls Royce. And they're called Kita and Avior. They're both now complete. People have started closing on their homes. There's a couple of people here tonight that have bought homes in Kita. And then we have a 3rd project underway in Tokyo next year. So I want to take you through a couple little things outside real estate, and we jump house concepts. So house concepts for us, you know, you think about, we've got all these little partnerships that are a little crazy. We got Go Ballet and the Chance here. We've got Soho House. You guys all know Soho House from London, New York. Just opened in Paris 2 weeks ago, Rome next week. Kitchen Table Group, which we're going to talk about later tonight. Creative Energy, one of the food groups, Seagull Entertainment. And so we decided that one of the things that we wanted to work on was, could we produce a more inspired fitness experience? And so we're going to open up our first gym on November 6th, aptly called House because it's at Vancouver House. And in a lot of our major projects, you're going to see our gyms opening inside. And so I'll look forward to you guys checking it out and tell us whether you think this is a more inspiring fitness experience than you used to see. Kitchen Table Restaurants, that's a partnership, you know, because we have a very strong food and beverage business, and we wanted to expand on that. So Nick's going to be talking later tonight if you're interested over at Shaw Tower, and he'll introduce some of the concepts, but we're basically opening a restaurant about every month at this point. Back row downstairs, Super Relace next door, a couple new restaurants coming to Shangri-La Vancouver, a couple new restaurants coming to Shangri-La Toronto, and so on and so on and so on. Go Ballet. We're very fortunate about having our partnership with Chan and Go Ballet. That started back in 2018. Since we've all seen each other, Chan opened in Toronto. And most importantly, we're working on a new Go Ballet, which will be housed at Oakridge. 2,000 aspiring dancers will learn their discipline at Oakridge. And I think that that's really cool, because it's not just an amazing new opportunity to bring more people into the world of dance, but what a place to live, where you're surrounded by this inspiring young people that want to learn an amazing craft. So I think most of you know the story of Go Ballet, but you know, it's a real iconic thing for Vancouver that we shouldn't take for granted. I think it's been there for about 43, 44 years maybe. And Chan took it over from her parents, I guess now about 15 years ago. So after she was the principal dancer for over 20 years for the National Ballet of Canada. So that's a big thing for Vancouver. And so that partnership with Go Ballet is something that we're really proud of. So that's a little. So right from here, I'm going to jump into Oak Ridge, but this is a building that, or an image that we've been playing around with. This is about 1/3 of our projects on the screen, and we just call this our Westbank City, and we kind of continue to kind of evolve that image. But you get to see you see the 747, and you see some of our artworks on the sand, and we just keep kind of adding to this image as we add buildings, but obviously you can't add them all. So it's about 1/3 of our work. The theme of tonight is all around collaboration, and a project like Oak Ridge, which is one of the largest projects being built in the world today, couldn't happen without a bunch of collaborations, but maybe the most important of those collaborations is the partnership with Floodville. You think about a project of this scale, it's way beyond what Westbank can do on its own. And it's these partnerships that we've built over the years that have allowed us to kind of grow and to do bigger and bigger projects. And when it comes to Oak Ridge, we really needed an amazingly strong partner to pull this off. Quadrille is the global real estate company. It's one of the 10 largest real estate owners in the world. And it's pretty cool for Vancouver, one of the 10 largest real estate owners in the world. Head office is 3 blocks up the street. It's the real estate arm of the Province of BC Pension Fund, and it gives us incredible strength to build a project like this through the ups and downs and pandemics and whatever comes at us. We get to just forge ahead. And that's something that we're very thankful for. I'm going to introduce you we're going to put a little flick on that's going to just talk about where Oak Ridge has kind of evolved over the next little while. Okay?
What is Oak Ridge Park?